Welcome to my video. First of all, you should know that you must be plus 18 years old while watching this video. You can subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Not a truck driver, but I've spent the past 4 years driving every day/night for work. I was in a fairly rural part of Mississippi, somewhere between Clarksdale and Greenwood. Important note, it's all 2-lane highway, the 250-mile drive home. The weather had turned pretty sour as I was leaving Clarksdale. I called my wife, told her there was high wind advisories and very possible tornado threats throughout the Delta, and I'd call her as soon as I made it to a safe area again. I had already been working for 14 hours when I got in the truck, so I had ate dinner and grabbed some coffee to stay awake and alert. Now, if you've never driven through flat farmland at night for 100 miles, it's very fatiguing and spooky without inclement weather. I had driven maybe 30 miles out into the farmland when hail started bouncing off my truck. Being an MS native, I knew in July hail meant tornado. I pull off to the side. I'm in the middle of nowhere, no lights to be seen, no cars behind or in front of me, and start looking for the storm/tornado I believe is approaching. I rolled the passenger window down and shined a bright flashlight off into the night. Nothing there. Turned to the driver's side, and this guy has his face pushed against the glass, grinning from ear to ear. I screamed and he was gone. I slammed the truck in drive and took off. We have all the time running cameras on our trucks. I got to the first safe place to stop and called my wife. I didn't want to scare her, so I didn't mention the guy or the hailstorm. I did, however, pull the SD card and check the cameras. I promise you this guy never popped up on my front or rear cameras. I've always played it off as my imagination. I will say I don't drive through the Delta in the dark anymore if I don't absolutely have to. Wow! Thanks for the awards all. I've never had a comment or post blow up like this. Just some side notes due to recurring comments. I've tried to respond to everyone. Appearance: it was a tall male, very pale white. Eyes were sunk back quite a bit. The grin is what truly got me. It was corner to corner with crooked teeth like the Cheshire Cat. Possible sleep deprivation. I've seen a few people concerned here. Our trucks are not semis. They are normal passenger/commuter vehicles equipped to carry/transport myself and my tools. We just have them outfitted with cameras and GPS for insurance purposes. We are not DOT regulated as we are passenger vehicles. Saw some obey regulations/laws on drive time comments. I will pull over and get a hotel if I feel sleepy/tired at all. I won't risk my safety or another motorist just to get home. Why the flashlight? I'm a technician for 40 or so retail locations and oftentimes have to go in industrial building ceilings. The flashlight isn't a run-of-the-mill shine 15 to 20 feet in front of you light. It's a telescoping floodlight, one of the ones that can very easily throw a small beam of light 1,000 feet and clearly illuminate wherever it falls. Having endured one tornado in a vehicle, I wanted to see if I could spot the funnel and get out of the truck in a ditch if there was one coming. Not a trucker, but had to drive home from DC to Nowhere KS after getting off active duty. I didn't have anything but my car, some clothes, and my late grandpa's old service revolver to my name. Couldn't leave base until 5 p.m., which put me in West Virginia after dark. My GPS decided to transfer me between highways via a few back roads. In the meantime, it just quits working. No cell phone, no GPS, and it's dark in the boonies. Figured I'd call it a night and find my way out from my atlas in the morning. I pull off the road/path, lock my doors, put up sunshades on my windows and get some sleep. It was a nice hatchback sleeper setup by MHO. I was just starting to doze off when I hear footsteps on gravel. I perk up, and it's definitely something on 2 legs, and it's definitely getting closer. So I fumble to get my sidearm without looking while trying to peek through the shade to see anything. All the wildlife is silent and I can hear footsteps circling the car. Back passenger handle pulled, front, driver rear. Hatch. Silence. I'm hoping they'll think it's abandoned and I pull back the hammer on the revolver, and as soon as it clicks, there's a pounding on the hatch glass. I rip the sunshade down and see a man in an open plaid shirt just going to town on my window with his fists and eyes that I've only seen on a rabbit right before slaughter. We lock eyes and he just starts screaming, not even words, just straight up screaming. So I scream back that I'll blow his head off if he doesn't. He takes off to the rear of the car. I catch my breath, climb into the driver's seat and start the car to get the of there. Suddenly my window just explodes into nothing. Later learned that broken spark plugs will do that, and he reaches in the car, yanks me out the window. Terrified, I fall awkward as shit as I clear the window, so I'm on the ground, he's kicking the shit out of me, and I'm scrambling trying to find the gun I dropped in the commotion. Seemingly out of nowhere, this random middle-aged guy comes charging out of the woods and decks the. They tussle a bit. I find the gun under the car. Crazy guy went off and I draw down on Crazy too. He puts his hands up, asking me not to shoot and generally being rational. I asked what he was doing out here and he said, well, I'm not here to spiders, then explained he's out here on vacation in a cabin, heard screaming and came to help. I thanked him and got the out of there, found a Walmart a few towns over, and slept under a street lamp. Called my dad the next day to tell him I'd be late because I had to replace a window and explain what happened. When he heard the spider thing, he laughed and made a joke about his dad always saying that because he had a bunch of Australian pilot buddies. Apparently it means like the does it look like I'm doing. Now, my grandpa died before I was born, and I'd actually never seen a photo of him aside from a service photo when he was about 20. I almost shit my pants when I see a photo inside of my dad with the dude that saved me, down to the clothes. I flip it over and it's got my dad and grandpa's names on it and 1990 on it. So I ask my dad when that picture was and he says it's special because that was taken the morning of grandpa's accident. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts, but it's a real up coincidence that the guy who saved me from a tweaker is a dead ringer for the guy whose gun I was trying to grab to protect me. Around 2006-ish, I was driving flatbed, picked up a load of construction material, drywall, roofing, don't remember, but it was prepackaged in boxes and I remember having to use strap protectors on the load in rural Tennessee. Memory is foggy now, but I want to say it was between Memphis and Nashville, but closer to the intersection of the MS, AL, T and state lines. Tarp required, so I strapped everything down, tarped the load and left the shipper. About 5 miles down the road, in the middle of nowhere woods on a 2-lane road, I noticed my tarp flapping in the wind. Found a wide shoulder and pulled over to fix it. I realized that I just flat did a shitty job tarping this load and decided to redo it on the side of the road. Undo all the bungee straps, drag the tarps off, roll them back up, climb up on the load and start unrolling the tarps again, and I see a guy walking down the same side of the road I'm on, coming towards my truck. I don't think anything about it other than to keep an eye on him because I'm in the middle of nowhere and continue what I'm doing. About the time I have tarps set in place and am climbing down to start hooking the bungee straps back on, this dude is getting close enough that I'm now paying more attention to him than I am to tarping my load. I grab my winch bar and set it on the trailer where I'm working just in case. 8-pound solid metal bar about 4 feet long, tapered to a blunt point on one end and hollow on the other, used for tightening straps and chains, etc. The guy gets to me and the first thing I notice is his hair. It's like a mullet, but it's patchy as. Like he tried to cut his own hair and had a seizure in the process and said it good enough to party. The next thing I noticed were his eyes, which I can only describe as off. Like they were clear. I didn't think he was drunk or high or anything, but it also gave me the distinct impression that the elevator didn't go all the way up. Clothes were dirty and not well maintained, with dirty white tennis shoes, cause I remember he didn't have laces on one shoe and the tongue was noticeably out of place. He stops by me, waits until I acknowledge him and just says, "I've got a long walk." I'm like, "Yeah man, you do, we're in the middle of nowhere." Making it clear there's no ride to be had here. He nods, starts walking by me, continuing on his way, stops at about the driver door on my truck and turns around, comes back to me and repeats himself. I've got a long walk. At this point, I explain that I can't give him a ride, insurance and all that. Apologize for not being able to help him out, and he seems to accept this, turns around and leaves. I wait for him to get a little ways away from my truck and start working on finishing the tarp job. I still keep an eye on him and he's moving away from me. As I'm putting on the last of the bungee straps, I look over to check where he's at and he's turned around heading back towards me, now about 100 yards in front of my truck and coming back my way. It looks like he's talking on a cell phone, has his hand up to his face and I can barely make out his mouth moving, his other hand waving like he's having a conversation with someone. I finish with the straps, grab my winch bar, and am climbing into my truck as he's about 10 yards away now. Soon as I'm in the cab, I lock the doors and set the winch bar on the passenger seat just in case. I look at the guy and realize he's not talking on a phone, he's talking to his hand, and now I'm nervous because he doesn't look like he's having a nice pleasant chat. It looks more like an angry conversation. Crank the truck up, put it in gear and just pull out, didn't look for traffic or anything. As I pass him, he's just looking at me, still holding his hand to his face with this dead-ass look on his face, just staring at me. Gave me the creeps. About the time I hit 5th or 6th gear, I look in the mirror and there's no one there.